Meeting no order. The public safety meeting for the city of Hudson, February 6, 2020. We'll do roll call.
Alderperson Alms.
Here.
Alderperson Hall. Here. Alderperson Morset.
Here, number 2, minutes of the regular meeting from January 9th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any objections? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We're going to move number 4 up, as our guest is here to talk at it now, which is discussion, possible action to conduct an all-school reunion Friday, August 7th, 2020, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. in Lakefront Park. Mr. Lanford, is it?
Yes.
If you'd come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Richard Lanfer. I live at 2351 Fieldstone Drive in Mendota Heights, Minnesota. And I'm here really representing my fellow classmate, Mike Soul, who
Okay.
couldn't be here.
Well, so you kind of are just a fill-in and don't know all the details if we have lots of questions?
Yes, I'll do my best.
Okay. Jeff, what's your pleasure on this? Did you get the
Yeah.
information on it?
Yep.
What's
Yeah,
your,
I have no objection to anything there.
no objections? Are there any questions for Mr. Lanford? Do you want him to explain a little bit about what's happening, or?
Well, I think the application is complete. I'm just wondering how big of a crowd this will attract and,
First year.
yeah, okay. So is this something that you're looking to do on an annual basis, or is this just a one-time thing?
It's the 50th
For
class
your
reunion.
class, okay.
So the next time would be our 100th. So not
There
on
won't
an
be too many attendees.
Okay.
Well, is this going to be just your class, or is this or are you going to be inviting other classes?
We're inviting the 2 classes above and 2 classes below
Okay,
to attend.
so
So
How
my
many-
class doesn't get to come.
you can hang out on the outskirts and look at.
I'm too
watch
young.
out the window.
Any other questions?
Insurance? Do you guys have insurance coverage?
We'll do whatever we need to do.
I don't know if we necessarily have a special permit for that.
Okay.
It's not a special event, right?
Right.
So it wouldn't require.
Wouldn't require?
Nope,
Okay.
it's covered underneath our umbrella coverage.
Right.
Okay. Very good. I'll move to approve.
Okay, I'll second.
Any other questions?
Yeah, are there any concerns that you've got? Nope. I don't know. It looks like it's going to be a rowdy bunch.
I know, right?
All these young people.
Okay, if no further questions, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? We'll recommend to our next council approval for it, which will be on February 24th.
Okay, wonderful.
So he'll probably get an email from one of the places,
Okay,
if not you, so you can pass that on to him as well.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. If you sure you don't want to stay for parking,
Thank you for accommodating.
you're welcome.
Well, and I think, Mr. Chairman, that the other group is here. as well.
Halos? Yeah, I'm the other group. Go ahead if you want to come up, and someone said you weren't going to be here, but that's great you made it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting my days mixed up, so I apologize.
State your name and address for the record, please. And this is item number 5, folks.
Halos.
Yes. My name is Kelly Espiritu, and my address is 1539 Sequoia Lane, New Richmond, Wisconsin, 54017.
Excellent. Jeff and I know this is an annual one. What year is it now that you've done this?
10th.
10th year. And it's pretty important for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And you've done a great job. And
Thank you.
I don't think we've really had any issues, even with the road closure stuff.
Generally, it's early enough in the day where it's minimal impact, if any.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the award that you got from the New Richmond
Thank
Chamber.
you.
I saw that in the
Thank you. I
paper.
feel very underdressed to come and, be representing, but yes, thank you.
We're not giving you an award, so you don't have to dress up.
Thank you.
We'll give you a clap, though.
Yeah, yes, yes. We do appreciate the work you're doing.
Any
Thank you.
questions
problems
or
with
concerns?
any of with the event and previously?
No, there's been no problems. We haven't
Okay.
had any issues.
And no changes, right? I mean, you're
No
running it.
changes. My dad had a question, and it doesn't apply to necessarily this year, but he's wondering if there's bounce houses allowed yet again. And I said, I'll ask. He has this thing he likes to have for the
Bounce
kids.
houses?
Yeah.
I don't know if, I don't remember we've ever had, have you had those?
We
early on?
have, but then there was like, I think in the years when they started blowing away, not here, but on YouTube or the news, they said, oh, we don't want that to happen. So we just didn't have one, but I didn't know if it was something that, I mean, we can think about in the future, but he just questioned, so.
Something like that, they have to provide their own insurance naming the city. The
And we do,
actual
yeah.
bounce house people have to provide it usually, whoever provides it to you.
We have our own special event insurance or whatever.
So as long as that's included in that,
We had to find a special carrier specifically, but yeah, so.
I mean, I don't know. if
But
there's a
I
public
don't want to
works
push
reason not to allow
anything
it, but
extra if,
I don't see one for liability reasons for us.
The only thing that Public Works would have would be marking it so that things hit as far as utilities or
yeah.
irrigation. I don't know if you guys would object to it as long as it was covered by the
Well-
insurance. And this is Aaron Reeves, our city administrator.
Hello, nice to
We
meet
don't
you.
have his tag out, so.
You
Okay.
know, I'm renting out one of our parks over the summer, and I thought there was something written about bounce houses.
I'd have to look and see. Like I said, I should verify with
So
Public
outside of
Works.
that, I don't have a problem with
Yeah,
it.
I'll have to verify that with Public Works. I
If
guess
you
I'm
do,
not
will
sure.
would someone let me know just so I know for future? Thank you.
Okay, if they're allowed, then
So what,
council can make that decision.
it's
Yeah.
not the same park, but what I'm seeing is bouncy houses and all other inflatable apparatuses are not permitted on park property due to liability issues.
But I'm
So
wondering
that-
if it's covered underneath a special event, you know what I mean?
I get it.
I think that would be the difference. They don't want somebody just, hey, it's a birthday party, we're using the park and we're bringing a bouncy house.
I know,
But I would think it's probably fine with a special event, or special event,
Right?
and then their own special event
Insurance
insurance.
coverage.
And to your point, Joyce, that's something that we can always change anyway, right, for this?
For council, we can make it, I would pass it on contingent,
Is that something,
allowable,
but
contingent.
you're
on-
not doing it this year?
No, my
Oh.
dad's babysitting my children. He said, "Hey, ask him. He's got this bright idea. He'd like to put one back down there." And I said, "I'll throw it out there."
We'll find out, let you know. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Otherwise, no, everything should be the same.
I'll move to
And you
approve.
just want still one officer, one squad with the barricades? That sufficient?
Yeah, I think that would still be just fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Any further questions, any concerns, John or Chief St. Martin?
We haven't had anything in the
No.
past at all.
Are you familiar with this event, John?
No, I'm not. What is the event for?
So what it is a memorial walk for families that have lost a child and
Oh,
just the community
absolutely. No,
together.
no,
and,
I am aware of
yeah.
it.
Oh, okay.
My nephew is part of the group,
Oh.
unfortunately. So they were here last year. We came down and supported them as well, so.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We'll recommend the council on the February 24th, and you'll get an email or whatnot
Okay.
from,
Thank you.
on the other thing.
I'd stay for parking, but other fish to fry.
Thank you. Okay, back to number 3, parking. A, discussion possible action on requests for 15-minute parking space at 407 Second Street, the sub-house. Jeff provided us.
This came in January. You asked me to go back and find out where all the current 15-minute parking spots are located. So I've given you a map of our downtown parking, which indicates where the current 15-minute spots are. And then I've also included an attachment from Google Maps, which kind of shows the area of the sub-house. And I guess, for purposes of my recommendation, which may change after the parking issue, I would probably recommend one of those, that furthest east angled parking spot on the south side of that building there, so the north side of commercial. if you wanted to assign that one a 15-minute spot, I think that makes more sense than taking another spot on the street.
Because there's already on the face of that street, there already is 15-minute parking on the other end of the block of Second Street,
On the
right?
very far north end of the block, and then in between Commercial Street and Wisconsin Street, about mid-block for the bank purpose. But yeah, there's really, and it's a normal size block there, right? A normal size city block, and there is nothing in that area.
What about the last space on Second at the south end of that street? That would be a little bit closer to the sub-house, and it would be easier to get in and out of, because it's at the end of the block there.
I don't know, he's recommend, it could be all up in the air once we get the number
It could be all moved.
C, but,
Okay,
because if we put, depending on where we put the other 15-minute parking, if we go that route,
okay.
that could be there as well already.
right. Should we move this to
We
after
can-
C?
We can hold off.
Yeah,
and
that's a,
Why don't
What's the
we,
second one? Ally, we should talk about that one. Well, you know what, let's just go to C and then backtrack. So this-
Okay.
sounds good.
just because that was brought up during the discussion we had at the last parking meeting. So, let's go to C, discussion possible action on modifications to the parking system. Nick or Mary Claire, I think Nick, you guys gonna? And Nick, if you state your name and address for the record too.
Good evening, my name is Nick Coliani. I live at
Thanks.
1113 Juniper Way, Hudson, Wisconsin.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Mary Claire.
Watch your step there. Yeah.
So, before you jump in, let me be very clear now, parking committee will now be reporting directly to public safety. And then these recommendations that they bring up, we deliberate, discuss, and then we will pass that on to the full council for action taken. I just want the general public to know that we've heard all the issues up there. We're working on it. Patience is what we're asking for as we work this out. I think, Sarah, you've said it best. We've got a bucket with holes in it, and we're trying to patch the holes. But if we can be patient and communicate with each other in a nice manner, I think we'll go forward and we'll find the solution. Change is not always fun, but sometimes necessary. So, with that, Nick,
Well, thank you for having me. When the parking committee came to city council last year and recommended the changes to the parking system, we acknowledged we'd probably be back in 6 months after we've learned some more and recommend some further changes. So this is sooner than that 6-month time frame, so I appreciate you taking the time to hear the recommendations. We have had a lot of public feedback and feedback from the business owners on the parking system, and we've addressed a lot of that feedback already. We've already implemented more of an educational enforcement piece. We've been working with our vendors to work out some system issues that we've experienced, but we think we can do more to help the community and help the public and the business owners with the parking. The City of Hudson Downtown Parking Committee did meet and put together 7 recommendations that are before you. Go through each of those. The first one, we want to create better consistency between the online materials and the printed materials. So we've found that in some instances they're not consistent with each other. We feel like that may be adding to some of the confusion. We want to update and enhance the brochure that our enforcement officers are handing out to people who do receive citations, so they do know how to work the system, not just what they need to pay, but actually how to interface with that system. Our third recommendation dovetails in with the sub shop's request, and that's to have a minimum of 1 15-minute parking stall in every block face in downtown. We think this will add to the convenience for the public to be able to run into a shop to drop something off or pick something up, but also safety to allow people to pull off of the street, let their guests out, and then continue on to park where they may choose to park. Our fourth recommendation is to provide complimentary parking for up to 4 hours a day.
I think you skipped 3, didn't you?
No, you just covered
That
it.
one.
Oh, never mind.
To provide complimentary parking for up to 4 hours per day in the following locations. And keep in mind, these locations are currently now either permit parking or 8-hour parking lots. This would be the Beach House, the Williams Lot, the North Lot, otherwise known as Wells Fargo, the Harbor Lot, the angled parking spots north of Vine Street on First Street, and the City Hall parking lot. These are the lots that are indicated in green in the online map, or this handout here. We feel that providing some free parking options to the general public will help alleviate some concerns that we expanded the geography of the system to include more of downtown. These parking lots are still on the periphery, so it still helps to achieve the goal of moving the long-term parkers to the outside of downtown, freeing up the on-street spaces in the core for people who want to come downtown, shop, grab some dinner, and generally leave in a shorter duration of time. If we do implement number 4, this will free up 7 of the pay stations that are currently mounted in those lots. Those 7 pay stations could be redeployed to other areas throughout town to make access to those pay stations easier for everybody. Instead of maybe having one on the end of the block or one in the middle of the block, there might be some select locations where we could put 2 on a block. If we do this recommendation, there would be no paid parking in those lots, so we would no longer have 3-hour and 8-hour zones. And for that reason, we can take the number of zones in the city down to just one zone, a 3-hour zone. We think this will aid in helping confusion with the public as well. So no matter where you park in downtown, if you walk up to a meter, it's the same zone number. If you park your vehicle at one end of town and you want to add time later and you're at the other end of town, it'll be the same zone. You don't have to remember what zone you parked in. And our final recommendation is to offer the first violation free at no cost to anybody coming to downtown. We feel like this will help restore some ill will that maybe we have caused or could cause in the future by being too aggressive in enforcement, by giving people more of a welcome note than a ticket. We also recommend increasing the second and subsequent violations to $15 from the $7 that they're at right now. Thank you for your time. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, what we should do here is go tick them off one by one if there's questions and end, or if
Sounds
we
good.
support those ideas. And if you want to, I believe most of you got Aaron's memo on his recommendations as well. So, number 1 being to develop the consistency between online parking and printed materials. To me, that's a no-brainer.
Same here.
We just have to do that. So I think we are all in agreement that that one is okay. Number 2, update and enhance the brochure with clear communications about how the new system really works.
So I have a question about that. There's only so much space on a warning ticket, right? Because that's what we would hand it out as one of those, hey, we found you in violation, this one's a freebie, here's information how to pay. The next time you're going to receive a citation, right? That's what we're talking about. So there's only so much room on the back of that ticket. So are you more concerned about the FAQ section or the how-to section?
I would be more concerned about the how-to section. Try to boil it down to a simple step 1, step 2, step 3. Include a link and a barcode so people can scan to download the app if they'd like. The app will have additional instructions on how to use it.
Okay.
And that's what is meant by the brochure in number 2, is from the parking.
Yeah, because that little card that he's got with him right now is what we're handing out.
Got it.
Because we had like 1,000 of them, so we're handing those out with courtesy warnings, right?
Sure.
Currently.
Got it.
This explains the rules of parking, not necessarily the how-to.
Got it.
I think this is the same,
Yeah.
pretty obvious we should do that.
Yeah.
I like the idea of putting that barcode or what on the back as well. It's a quick do, so they can do it right there. So, yeah. Anybody else on 2?
So it's a barcode, not a QR?
A QR.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Everybody good with 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
I am.
Number 3, have a minimum of one 15-minute spot on every block, face to address convenience and safety issues, allowing for quick pickup and opportunity to drop off guests and then locate a place to park. Any concerns with this?
Can I ask a clarifying question? Each side of each block?
Each
For
block,
example, the west side of each block and the east side of each block?
so each block face, if a block has 4 sides to it, there'd be 4 15-minute spaces, 1 on each side.
And how far does that extend? Where are
Buckeye,
we
is that
talking?
is Buckeye your proposed cutoff? That's what I was just gonna ask too, like Buckeye up to Vine, basically Buckeye to Vine, or Elm even?
Throughout the 3-hour patrolled area.
Yeah, okay.
So yes, Buckeye,
Everything.
To
I
Vine.
Up to Third?
up to 3rd, yeah.
Does 4 a little
I would
bit,
include 3rd.
is 4 a little bit much, or are you trying to include, well, you're trying to include the whole block, not just the front of the block, or 1/2 of a block? I'm thinking out loud. Sorry if it hurts.
Yeah, I think I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking more Second Street
Yeah,
as what you're talking about.
I'm thinking that we probably need to look at each of
Each
these
one.
blocks and determine whether there's a need for a 15-minute spot, because like on First Street, I don't, yeah, we'd want one, for example, in front of Pier 500, but maybe not on all the blocks there.
Well, and I think about, obviously, I think about Wisconsin Street. I think about Commercial Street. How many places are even there where people would need to stop,
Right.
get out for 15 minutes and walk someplace? I'm just thinking out loud, but
No, but along
those are the
Second Street
things
for
that I
sure.
think about.
so Jeff, are you going to 2 or 4 in your head? I mean, what do you think? Or you want to go case by case?
I think you almost gotta pull out we almost have to do the Google map, aerial it, and kind of go through and just
Yeah.
identify which ones make sense, because there's a business there that they would use, and then
Right,
identify
Locust
those
Street and
blocks.
Second Street are the obvious ones that come
Yep.
to mind.
Yes.
But even on First, like you said, I think down by Pier 500, obviously it makes sense, and maybe even as we, go over, we'll have to look at them each. But I would say, staff-wise, I wouldn't have a problem with it if it made sense. In some of those blocks where there's literally nothing there, I don't know what the point would be.
I think we should direct staff to place some kind of a mark on each of the, on this map,
We'll do a Google map of it.
where everything, where they would recommend 15-minute spots, because, yeah, you don't need them in places where there aren't any businesses
You think
that
we
people.
need to do that for, are we going to try to get this out as soon as possible, like the 24th, or,
That's the goal, is have it in front of the council on the 24th, so, yeah.
okay.
But we can get the map pulled together and email it out to everyone to take a look at and just make sure it looks okay. But obviously Nick and I, we can work together on that too.
Yep.
That was my
and see.
next question is,
Yep. Let's
can
just
we
work
see what
together on
the
it.
impact is there.
I think we could probably, I don't think we'll have a problem coming to agreement on where to put them, to be honest.
Okay. Well, and since we've discussed it at public safety, I feel comfortable sending that part of it directly to council.
Yeah, I mean, I'll send it out beforehand so you guys can all see it first.
Yeah.
Because you might have individual questions, we can answer them too.
Okay,
Thank you.
so 3 is okay with the map, and
Right.
after they decipher, okay? So number 4, which is probably going to be the stickiest one, complimentary parking up to 4 hours per day in the following locations, and you guys have those in front of you.
Yep, I circled them all on my map to make sure I knew which ones was which.
Aaron, maybe start with your recommendation.
Well, and again, I'm not but recommendations, some ideas, because I'm not a parking expert either. And I actually did talk to Nick about this, so I'm not blindsiding him with it either, my thought was, well, what if we focus on the lots that were free before? For the first step is, okay, so these were free lots before, and that would be, as you talk about lots, it would be the Beach House lot and the Williams lot, but then they also had requested that on-street parking by the police department there. And I'd be fine with that too, because that was always free before as well. So out of the lists that they had, the Beach House lot, the Williams lot, and then the angle parking north of Vine Street on First, those are all free before. So I don't think I see as big of change with that if you went with those for free. Let's talk about time in a second, but for some sort of free parking. But the Wells Fargo lot, the Harbor lot, and the City of the Hall lot were always pay before. They always were metered or permit, or a combination of the two. So I don't know about those. I mean, I'm open for discussion with it, but I don't know.
Are we in agreement with the three he's checked off? As far as,
I have a big question mark about this, about 4 overall. I get the recommendation, I understand the recommendation. What does the recommendation do on an impact level? What do we see this as being? I mean, we just spent how much for the parking system? How much do you see this as being an impact on that piece?
Unfortunately, the system hasn't been in long enough for us to be able to give you a clear picture on that.
Yeah, we just don't know. I mean, literally, we have 30 days basically worth of enforcement data and revenue. So it's hard to say what the impact will have. We just can't tell you. I mean, I think as with all of this, we've talked about, we need to do a 6-month review and then basically an annual review on it to see where we are our first year. And a big part of that's going to be the revenue side. I mean, the goal, it's a utility, so it needs to pay for itself. So I don't know. I mean, based on our first month, we should be fine with it paying for itself as is. With these changes, should we still be fine? It's a guess. I would hope so. But we would have to make that decision at 6 months or a year. I mean, if we're running short, we're going to have to maybe make, if we make changes and we review it at 6 months and it looks like, man, this isn't going to cash flow, we may have to make a decision at 6 months to maybe reinstate some of these. Or at the end of the year, once we get there and it's not there, we may have to make a decision about something. It may not be reinstating these, it may be upping fees, it may be doing something different. I don't know the answer exactly. But again, I think like Nick said, we just don't know for sure yet. What it would be, my hope is that if we did this, whatever it is, we'd still be cash flowing at the end of the year. And, cash flow is meanings that we have to pay for the operations. We want to pay back the system costs. And we also want to making sure that we're putting some money aside to keep improving the system as well. So.
it's not to make money.
Right. No, the goal is not to make money. It's just to keep it operating and keep it improving. That's what we want out of it.
Well, and to get compliance.
Well, oh yeah, we want the compliance too. So.
No, but I mean, that's the violation, the costs or citations are to get compliance. I have a question. If somebody buys a parking permit, is the parking permit for a specific lot or is it for any of the lots?
Any of the permit lots.
Any of the permit lots?
Any of the permit lots which are colored green on the map.
Well, not all, because I don't think the on-street one and that little harbor one are actually permit. Those are just 8-hour lots.
The on-street
They're
north
also
of Vine
permit.
is a permit.
Is that permit allowed?
Permit area.
They're also permit.
And so is the harbor one too?
The harbor lot is in question because the materials are not consistent.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically, it's all the green ones except maybe the harbor. We weren't sure.
Okay, so we
yeah,
need
so if you buy
consistency
a-
That's
there.
8-hour. And I said
Yeah,
that. There's a little
yeah.
consistency with that.
So
But
if
that's
you buy
still
a
8
permit, those are the lots you're supposed to park in.
Okay.
Technically, you'd be in violation if you were parked on street and didn't pay.
Right. So, all right, so if we, if we implemented number 4, would each of these lots have some designated permit spots, like, so then?
It's going to
so
be
it
a
would
first come, first serve is going to be our thing. And that's
Well,
part
and
of
I have how do you propose we enforce the 4-hour limit if there's no payment required?
So it's basically a violation sort of thing. So that's where it's that, basically, what that email we had going back and forth today with whatever that company is, one
Well,
of
I
them.
know, and in
It's
number
basically
5, he
electronic
says that
tire
you don't-
chalking. It would be electronic tire
So
chalking.
how do they pay? They just, if they're there for 4 hours, they have to leave? They
Right.
can't- There's no way to pay?
No, there's nowhere to pay. You're there for 4, you're out. If you're there for any longer, we ticket you.
I get it.
So, but as far as your other question goes, that's going to have to be part of our review, is at the 6-month mark and at the end of the year mark, basically, it's, are we having a conflict of too many free parkers conflicting with our permit parkers? And if that's the case, we're going to have to talk about limiting the number of free spaces or limiting the number of permit spaces to address that kind of tension, but we don't know for sure. Again, without the data right now, we just don't know for sure if there's going to be that conflict or not. So it's potentially that it'll be there, and it's potentially something we'll have to deal with, but again, we don't know for
We're
sure.
not going to really know what the impact of that's going to be until summertime.
Right, I agree completely. It'll be summer when you know for sure.
Because, I mean, that beach house lot is full by 9 o'clock in the morning in the summer. And
So that's going to bump the permitters, out
to other
depending on what you
places.
decide to do, definitely, other end of town possibly.
And with the location where these lots are located, they're on the peripheral of downtown as it is, which means that there is free on-street parking just one more block away from them.
That's a
So-
great point. If that lot is full, technically you drive another block and you're free.
But I hate to have the people who have paid for a
Yep.
permit not have parking or,
Right.
I mean, once in a while, a couple times a year, they're not able to find a permit spot. That's understandable. But anything more than that, then we're going to really get some complaints.
Right. And that's possible. We don't know for sure yet. Maybe it'll be fine, maybe it won't. I don't know.
I suspect we'll have data.
Do we want to mix and match that, or is that too hard to enforce?
Well, I think it's actually the easier way to enforce. If we're going to offer free, the place to offer it is in these lots.
No, I mean, that's too, but for no permits, well, that's what the same,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
yes.
basically, it's actually easier to enforce if we lump those two together. Because if we lump those two together, all we have to do is use our license plate reader, not worry about the pay stations. Because basically what the reader will do is go through that lot, either you got a permit and you're fine, or it'll basically electronically chalk your tire, and then when they come back, a few hours later, they'll know if you've been there too long or not, and then ticket you. But yeah, it's actually better to stick with lots. if
But
we're
that's
do
gonna
it.
require more vigilant,
Enforcement.
regular patrols
Yep.
and not as much education.
They're gonna have to be making a rotation every few hours at least through those lots, depending on which ones they are.
Well, we would expect that, don't we? Or,
Well, we're trying to balance enforcement with education right now.
well, right, I
Yep.
mean. but
The
once-
the system is pretty efficient, so if all they're doing is making laps around town,
Yep.
all they're doing is tagging violations, and
Oh.
it's a bad
Okay.
idea.
It is efficient, yeah. So I guess our first question still is the lot question. Is it all of these lots that they're requesting? Is it some of these lots? Or is it, again, the question comes back to, is it we leave it alone? I mean, that's also option number 3, is that we've had a month worth. Obviously, concerns have been brought forward, but at the same time, we have no data to back them up other than input that we received. And I'm not discounting that input, that it's not real, that there's issues with it. But at the same time, the other option is you say, we let it work as is for now, and we make a decision after 6 months or whatever it
I
is.
think what we started, I'm sorry, Bill.
You're fine.
When we started this whole new transition, we were always in favor of being open to changing it as it needed. Very conscious of the fact we needed data to make a good decision and not a knee-jerk reaction. But at the same time, we have to listen to what some of the folks are saying to us. This ill will sticks in my head, and I don't want that.
No.
And I agree with somewhat staying the course, but we've always been open to a little tweaking and changing as we go.
I have a question about the input. What input specifically did we have about 4 that it solves? What input did we hear specifically?
Because we expanded the geographic area of the on-street paid parking, we took a lot of spaces that were otherwise uncontrolled and unmetered and brought them into the system, which really means that to find any sort of free parking, you're going to be going further than you had to go before.
Got it. But this one, A through F, actually overextends that, right? Or does that balance out what we added?
The number of spaces? I'm not prepared to answer that question, I apologize, but we have identified with the list recommended here that it would provide about 250 spaces with those lots. And with the lots that Aaron had just mentioned, the more limited list is roughly 175 spaces.
So if you went with all the ones that you're asking for, is what, 250 more spaces?
Roughly.
And then if you eliminate the 2 I talked about, which was the Wells Fargo and that little harbor lot, that's 170?
Roughly.
Okay, so you'd still, either way, you're
City
gonna
Hall
get.
lot, right? Or are you,
In the city hall lot, sorry, in the city hall lot,
What are you
correct.
calling the harbor lot? Is that the
This-
library?
This
the little alleyway?
Oh, Williams lot.
It's it's next to the Williams lot.
Right.
It's that little side piece
Right.
off the Williams lot. That's technically called the harbor lot. That little alley
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
That little one right there.
I think of that as the one that we use when we go to San Pedro Cafe.
Yeah, yeah. So like I said, when I was talking about it, what I kind of talked about was the city hall lot, the Wells Fargo lot, and the harbor lot. They were always metered or permit or both. before.
Well, I remember when parking came to city council initially, it was a big conversation about the beach house lot.
Yeah.
That was going to be, you know, that was a deliberation, I remember anyway. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah. Because I think Sarah and Jim brought it up that they, 3 hours or no, you didn't have enough time to play at the beach or whatever you needed to do.
But on the same hand, we still need to provide some limit to the duration of stay in the lots, or else we may have people who take up the space all day.
Right.
And why would you buy a permit too? I mean, basically, what's the
The
point?
options exist,
What's the
correct.
point of buying a permit if you can park there free all day?
So let's say if we agreed on A, B, and E, and is City Hall included or not included?
No,
permit?
because that was always, the middle was always permit and the outside was always metered.
Okay, so would they also be the either or, permit or pay?
What's that? Oh, A, B, and E?
Yeah.
Yep, so that would, so if you went with the A, B, and E, if you went with those three, that would give you the 170 roughly free spaces. And that would be a mixture of a free, well, under this proposal, a free 4 hours or permit parking.
Okay.
And it basically gives you a permit lot on each end of town.
How are we gonna communicate that to people?
Right, does this make it more confusing is my worry.
Well, and that's part of it. I mean, technically, there can be confusion with it. I mean, if you want to go with all of those other ones, I understand that. There's not a problem.
I'm
with
just
it.
saying, all of them, right?
Right.
Put all the lots, doesn't matter, pick one of the lots. How do we communicate to someone that's coming from, let's say, St. Paul with their
Yep.
family to
It's all
enjoy the
signage.
beach?
It's all signage, big signs, free 4 hour parking, whatever it is in front of each of those lots at each entrance. And then the other ones that aren't, it's the big signage saying permit or free 4 hour, whatever, you know what I mean? But it's, honestly, the communication's not as much with the parkers coming in from out of town, because the lots are gonna be basically free parking. So, you know,
It's locals.
right, it's mostly your permit parkers. I mean, you're gonna have to have on, you know, this little harbor lot and that Wells Fargo lot, the sign's gonna have to be, you know, permit parking only, basically. 8 hour permit parking only. You know, you gotta, but the other ones will say 4 hours free, you know, something like that. No kiosks, nothing to pay on those, at those lots. So there
So
won't
we'll
even be.
relocate the pay stations that we have in those lots to
Yep.
other places throughout downtown?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying?
Give them a little, few
So
more.
that it's less confusing? Like, well, they're saying it's free, but there's a pay station right here. What am I
Right,
supposed to
well,
do?
yes,
That
then
was-
that was part of their
that was
proposal.
number 5.
Move those pay stations somewhere else.
Okay.
How easy are they to move?
They're just solar,
Yeah, they're bolted
4
around.
bolts.
Bolted to the ground?
Got it.
Yep, just unbolt them, move them, and reprogram them.
It's not that.
But again, I don't disagree with the confusion part. I mean, I think that's why they proposed all these lots, was to take that confusion away, that basically every lot we have is either permit or free for how many hours you want to make it free. And I'm not arguing against that. There won't be some confusion when you have 2 lots that are going to be permit or free and 2 lots that are going to be paid for up to 8 hours or permit. I mean, I don't disagree with that there could be some confusion with it. It's just, again, I'm not a parking expert here, but I have concern about the parking study talked about free parking subsidizing pay parking, which is why we eliminated most free parking. And then we're going back to a good chunk of free parking. And again, I don't know the numbers and I don't know how many on-street we added spaces versus, you know, lots now and things, but if we're giving 250 free parking spaces back, what does that do to the, how many do we add on the street? I mean, are we just right back where we started, basically, just in a different format? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the number of parking spaces we added into the system were in that 225 to 260 something range.
So you're basically just going back to what we had before, except you have to pay on street?
As far as inventory.
As far as inventory, but we're collecting parking fees now. We don't have broken meters and we're doing it.
Oh, 100%, I agree with that. We're so much more efficient. I mean, that's a big difference.
And everything's getting
Well, yeah.
accounted for. That's the big rub. There-
Right.
No more free, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and we increased the enforcement hours to the times when we had parking issues from that 5 PM to 8 PM kind of time frame.
True, it fixes a lot of other
And
problems.
that's had a pretty big impact.
I mean, I guess, like I said, I'm okay with going with all the lots, just with the understanding that in 6 months we review this, we have to look at the numbers.
Absolutely.
And at that time, you may have to then flip-flop and go back to charging in some of these lots to make the numbers work. I don't know. I'm hoping we'll be just fine. I'm hoping we won't have to worry about it. These lots will cash flow without these lots, and it won't be a problem. So, you know, like I said, I'm open.
I'm concerned that once we make the change, we can't make the change back. If we need to make that change.
I don't know about that. I think I disagree with you because
So we can go from free to charging again? It's okay?
now's the time to do it.
We're going to, we may have to. So for example, if we find that the people who are buying permits aren't going to be able to get into the lot closest to their workplace because you've got all these people who don't have permits using those lots, then we're going to be hearing about that. City Hall will be getting calls. I can guarantee that.
Well, and what's going to happen is they're not going to park 2 blocks further out. They're going to park wherever they find a spot on the street, technically making them in violation if they don't pay.
We're going to ticket them. We have to.
So
Yeah.
that's what's going to get the complaint. I bought a permit, now I'm getting tickets.
Well, and so we need to keep track of those complaints so that we know whether we're serving the people who are buying permits properly.
Right.
So the question that I asked earlier, what does this have an impact, and we didn't say we had enough data. At what point would we have enough data to make a decision?
6 months.
I think 6 months is a reasonable, I mean, we need to get some summer months into this
I
too.
don't think you're going to get accurate data until the end of July.
Yeah, I think the end of July is the best way to look at it.
Because, I mean, it's a very different city, as everybody knows.
Right.
And the parking issues are very different.
Yeah, I'd like to see May, June, July in the review. Especially June and July.
Well, I like the idea of having some free parking in the city. I had somebody tell me yesterday that she volunteers at the Phipps, and she's there for only a couple of hours, but she says, I have to pay for parking in order to volunteer at the Phipps. It just doesn't make sense. And I understand where she's coming from, but I don't think we need to be giving out special permits for different things, but we need to be listening to what they're saying.
Absolutely. But, well, I've said it all before, we've got to kind of mold this as we go along to each, the restaurant areas, the Phipps Center needs, as we all know, needs.
Yeah, they each have different needs. The question is, are we molding too soon?
Well,
Right.
everybody who's kind of worked says yes. The numbers aren't, we don't have the data to make a decision. If you want to go hard case business, we don't change it.
No, I mean, I believe in
Feelings
data.
of making good
Yeah.
people happy, yeah. Then we change it.
Right. I believe in data-driven decisions. However, we also, we have to be listening to what the people are asking for.
And I've heard both sides of the restaurant stories.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't affect this restaurant, but it is affecting my restaurant.
Oh, okay.
I've heard both sides.
Wasn't the Williams lot, the back wall of the Williams lot, wasn't that permit only?
Yeah, I think it was.
There was some sign in there that was permit only, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or something like that. Were there only select spots in there, or was it the whole lot?
Wasn't a whole lot of way back lots, and then I ended up parking there, and it was free.
Okay. So the rest of the lot was permit only. It was just the perimeter spots that were
Do either
free.
of you have anything you want to input?
And I realize that Nick needs to leave, and I do too. I apologize. I'm Mary Claire at the Hudson Chamber. I think the only thing is you talk about not enough data, but there's already been 2 changes made already to the system. When the library lot became free and the senior citizen policy was passed by the council a couple weeks ago. So I implore you to think about this because we really do need to make a change. We cannot wait 6 months to do anything. And I would encourage you strongly to look at this, changes have already been made. I think this is a very good, thoughtful proposal that the committee has spent a lot of time on, based on feedback from community and businesses and so forth. So I would encourage you not to wait 6 months before you do anything till all the data's in, because 2 changes have already been made without those data points. So thank you.
Sarah?
And the library lot's not 100% free, right? That's just library patrons are free. Everyone else
For
is.
those using the library and the police department facility. Yep.
Hi, I'm Sarah Atkins Hoggett, and I've been receiving a lot of input from the constituents and visitors who use the downtown area as the representative of District 5, which includes the downtown. So what I'm hearing is that I want to for sure have some consideration is that there's a perception that we are in this for the money. And I want to make it very clear that from my perspective, we're not in it for the money. It's not about how fast we pay off the system or that it pays for itself. What we need to do is make sure that we are a happy community that welcomes visitors, and that this is a service to the people who need to come and visit us and who want to shop and participate in our great downtown neighborhood. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that the public knows that the system that we're designing is for them, and that we want to implement changes so that they know we are a welcoming community and that we want them to come and visit. So and that by working to get the long-term parkers out to the peripheral, and that is what that is the first and foremost goal of the new parking system. And I think it's very important that the public perceives that they know that that's our intention, is to make it easy to park and welcome them. I did want to have you consider that one of the biggest complaints we got, or maybe one of the loudest ones, is we took away so much free parking. And that's true, we did. We took away a lot of free parking, and so bringing some back in. So I'm hearing right now the debate is 175 versus 250. Once you give something, it's harder to take it away than it is to give more. So I would maybe consider doing the 175 and then adding later, because it's easier to add what you're giving to people rather than give them something now and then say, yeah, we got 6 months of data and we're going to take that back again. So that would be the direction I would recommend.
So on 4, Sarah, you suggest do 3 of the lots and then...
Well, I don't want to go against what the committee, I'm not actually on the parking committee, I've just been participating or listening in, so I don't want to say something that's against what the actual committee is recommending, but I just know that in my experience in life in general, it's easier to add more rather than take something away later. So.
Well, and I can certainly tell you, through all the meetings we've been to over the years, and some of that you guys have been here, we don't want to create that ill will. We want everybody to be welcome to Hudson.
Right.
That was never the intent, and the intent was never to make money. It's to sustain itself and what we have to do to operate
Right.
it. Period. It's never been about anything else.
Right.
So I don't think anybody here wants to upset anybody. We just got to find the right fit.
Absolutely, and I just want the public to know it's not, that we are not in this, we did not set up a new system because we thought we were going to make more money.
Right, and that needs to be said over and over again.
Yep, so.
Just out of general curiosity, that harbor lot, that little side one there, does it make sense just to make that 3 hours? I mean,
It's closer to on-street parking.
it is
in my
closer to
opinion,
on-street parking than
it
anything
is a
else.
lot.
To me, it seems like a weird 8-hour lot. I mean, Nick, I don't want to jump, I don't know why that was chosen to be an 8-hour lot,
What
to
are
be
there,
honest.
10 spots there?
I mean, I just walked over there today to eyeball and take a look at it, and I mean, to me, it looks like you're on-street parking, basically. I mean, it's like a little side alley that goes up to the Williams lot. That's all it is. And to me, if I would park there, I would feel like that's, basically you're parking there to walk right there downtown. It feels like more of a 3-hour location to me.
On our pamphlets, it's a 3-hour lot. Online, it's an 8-hour lot.
It
So-
seems to me like it should be 3-hour myself. I mean, that would eliminate one of those lots that we're considering anyways for a free, I guess. You know what I mean? Is make it 3-hour.
Why don't we just do that?
I think that seems to make some sense, to be honest, is make that 3 hour.
Okay.
And that's not hard to do with the system.
Still a paid,
The
lot.
Yes.
the parking thing is
Free lot.
literally right at the base of it.
yeah, okay.
It's-
No, really, all you have to do is just delete that zone.
Yeah, just
'Cause
delete that zone.
It's
it
got its
becomes-
own parking lot, right? So it'd have its own zone number, so you delete that zone and you make it part of 102 and.
Sounds like we're going no zones anyway. I don't
Pretty
know,
much.
but-
I mean, at this point, the only lot we're really debating then is the Wells Fargo lot.
And to be clear.
And City Hall.
To be clear.
Oh, and City Hall,
all-
I'm sorry, yeah.
All permit lots are currently also 8-hour paid lots. So they
Right.
are open to the public right now.
Yeah, they are.
And I think they should still be.
Yeah, they will, well, they will be. It'll just be, depending on which ones we choose, it'll be either before free hour parking or whatever number of
But you're
hours.
saying 4 hours and you gotta leave.
Right.
You can't re-up.
No, because there's no upping. It's, you get for free and you got to move.
And my only comment about the north lot, otherwise known as the Wells Fargo lot, is that a lot of people that live in the Buena Vista across the street use that parking lot. And if we took their permits parking away, we'd be hearing it from.
Yeah, that could be an issue because it is used
And
by.
a lot of those
Are their
people
permits
have,
not 8-hour permits anyway?
they are 8-hour permits.
So
Yeah,
It would just be if you introduce it for free, do you get more people, because it's so close to downtown, do you get more people kind of rolling in there? 'Cause
well,
it's-
that's the thing. It's kind of the epicenter of downtown. Is
I could see that one being filling up quick with free parkers if it was 4 hours, which would then cause a problem with the Buena Vista apartments. So I guess that's the only one out there that's really kind of the debate. Do we leave that one permit and 8-hour with the pay station there?
What's your thought on City Hall?
I still think City Hall should be left the way it is. I mean, right now it's 3-hour parking.
Is there permit parking still in the city
No.
lot? No, so all the.
City Hall
all-
parking is straight up only 3-hour parking.
Okay, so now, so.
Under
people
this,
who-
we would add it-
People who work in City Hall are going over to the Williams?
Well, in the winter, we're parking, a lot of us, we have the one row on the side here that's always been either EMS or city parking, so we're using that still. The EMS will be leaving in February, and those 4 spots will open up for city staff. But to be honest, we're using it only in the winter just because it's bad weather and stuff. As Soon as summer comes, we're moving everybody out of there because we can walk in the summer, nobody has to worry about
Yeah.
falling on the ice, things like that. And actually, with the fire hall getting out of here, we'll end up parking some city staff along the side of the fire hall, along the side here, so it won't take up any of the Williams lot even with city staff. We're gonna
Okay.
try to park all of our staff right now where it's only fire station parking only. So we won't actually lose any spaces for city
Okay.
hall staff. So that's kind of the plan with it. So right now, yes, we do have some city hall staff that park over here, but we've never had the issue of it filling up in the winter really, not during the day.
So, question then becomes, what do you do with the 5th slot? Do you make that 3-hour parking also?
Isn't it already?
it is already.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a separate zone.
Yeah, but that would just stay, I think, like I said, they'd all, pretty much if it's not a lot, or maybe the Wells Fargo lot would be the only one, you'd have two.
But it is a lot.
Yeah, no, but it would stay the way it is. We don't change it. Leave it alone.
Would we keep it its own separate zone, or
don't
would
think-
it
I
just
don't know
go
why
to
you
the
would.
on-street
No.
zone?
It wouldn't
so-
matter 'cause it's
so
3
all-
hours.
All the 3-hour lots would be one zone?
Yep, so pretty much any 3-hour lot would be one zone. So we would have a lot, City Hall lot, the Phipps lot, 3-hour lot
And
zones.
the on-street, just make
In the
them
on-street, all one zone, so you don't have to even know. Basically, the only thing we really would be doing then is if we kept the Wells Fargo, that would be our only 8-hour lot, so we'd have 2 zones basically. All 3-hour and then 1 8-hour lot, which would be the Wells
One
Fargo
8-hour
lot.
lot or 3 8-hour lots?
Just one,
Oh, the Wells Fargo lot.
just the Wells Fargo, because the other ones would turn to free parking or permit.
But that Wells Fargo lot would be 3-hour or 8-hour? Or just 8-hour?
Well, right, 8-hour, you can do anything you want, right? You can do 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
5,
but
6.
it'd be paid. You can pay
Yeah,
up
it's
to 8
paid.
hours.
You'd have to pay up, you could pay up to 8 hours.
Could permit
Okay.
parkers park there?
Yep.
Okay, so Wells Fargo,
We're spinning our wheels, but let's.
we got to answer these
No, no,
questions
but
though. and
I want to
understand
make
what's
sure we're on the right track to get this stuff.
Yeah,
I think the first question we should all answer is are we willing to make the change right now? If that's the case, then let's quick knock off these lots and then we can move on to hours, how many free hours we get. It sounds like you're willing to make a change right now because it's
Yeah.
brought forward.
I'm not, but if you guys are, you obviously outweigh. I feel
But it
like,
would-
I feel like we make changes, is every change that we're going to make everybody happy? I mean, does that work for everybody? Or are we, again, going to hear backlash for the changes that we made?
There's always going to be backlash whenever we make a
Right,
change.
right.
Yes, you're right
So-
about that.
My concern overall is that it's a knee-jerk reaction to 1 month and how many days of doing the parking, right, enforcing it?
Yeah, of enforcement. I mean, we've been live since November 4th, but we haven't really felt the full impact of what the system was going to do until January 2nd.
Do you have to get going?
Yes, sir.
Any final thoughts for us to ponder?
Just want to thank you for considering the recommendations.
Thank you for
We
the
want to
work.
make it better for everybody in the community and make it a workable system for the city.
We will do.
I do
What's
have.
your help?
I'm sorry, I do have one question, I'm sorry. Is there a reason that you chose 4 hours?
We felt like,
What is the reason?
we felt that would be enough time for somebody to park in one of the peripheral lots, still walk through downtown, make a couple stops, and walk back to their car.
Understood, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, so let's knock these parking lots off.
Yeah, so I mean-
Unless you had a question, I don't want to cut you off, because I agree we need to talk it out, but we were just,
Okay.
we're chasing our tail there.
No, I've got one question about the, all right, that's the north lot, the Wells Fargo lot.
Yep.
All right, so if it's 8 hours,
Yep.
then
Which it
if
is
somebody
right now.
doesn't have a permit,
Yep.
they can put their information into the app or the pay station.
Yep.
And they can pay for 8 hours.
Up to 8 hours. They
Up
could
to
take
eight-
1,
yeah,
2, 3, 4.
Up to 8
Yep.
hours without a problem. And then if somebody's got a permit, are they allowed to park longer than 8 hours in that lot with the permit?
No,
No.
permit's an 8-hour permit.
Okay,
But with our enforcement hours,
well,
You know,
it's 10 hours.
Our enforcement hours are 10 hours, but yeah.
But if they come in, so if they're
go to
working
work.
9 to 5, it
Right.
wouldn't be a problem.
right, it's
Right.
not a
What
problem.
if they're doing a 10-hour shift?
We haven't had an issue yet, but,
Okay, well,
you know.
it's something we're gonna have.
Yep, it's something we may have
Like
to,
I said too, with that lot in particular, the issue is the
People across the
folks,
street.
that a lot of them are elderly with special needs and what have you,
Yeah.
that need a close place to park, that maybe come home from work in the middle of the day,
Yep.
right? And that 8-hour permit gets them to the enforcement period.
Yeah.
Through the enforcement.
and we've always said with that one, because of that unique situation, if we started having trouble, we'd have to look at something special for the Buena Vista ones where they would just get more of a
They'd have a
10
special
hour or
permit.
something like that, because they live.
Or a
right there.
residential permit.
A
that-
residential permit would be a good
Something-
idea.
a residential permit, something
Okay,
like that.
That sounds like a
Yep.
good idea. All right, I can live with that.
So I guess then what I'm saying is, I could see that being an issue with that lot, being free parking for whatever we decide. 4 hours is a proposal, because that will fill up immediately, just with its location. And I don't think the Buena Vista permit parking holders will ever get a chance to get in there. I mean, it will still probably fill up,
They have a hard time
possibly.
already.
Right, it's already kind of an issue that we may have to address in the future. I mean, maybe at least with the paid, it makes people look before they just jump right in there and see, oh, free, I'm going in. So I guess.
Because those spots, let's be honest, every one of us would park in those spots first.
Yeah, if that was free,
So we're gonna go to the 3 lots and find a spot, and if there's not a spot, then we're gonna yield to a paid spot.
so I guess what I would say then is, in looking at all this, let's turn the Little Harbor lot to 3 hours. It just makes sense. Change that to 3 hours.
Yep.
Leave the Wells Fargo lot the way it is. Don't touch it. I mean, it's already 8 hours, it's already permit, leave it alone. Then it's the other 3, and then City Hall. I say leave City Hall alone as well. It's already,
Yeah.
it's 3 hours. It's not 8 hours.
Yep.
And in the summer, that's going to be a prime lot too, to be honest.
2 zones then.
2 zones.
3 zones.
No,
2 zones.
2 zones. We'll only have 2 zones, 3-hour parking, 8-hour parking. And
And
the 8-hour
free.
parking, and, well, free, but free's not a
Slash
zone.
permit.
Because free, we actually just drive through and ping it, we don't even use the system anymore.
That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. If you drive through there and you don't have a special zone for it, it's gonna ping every car.
Yep.
Okay.
it'll be
It's gonna-
no
you're gonna
zone.
drive by and it's gonna go every time you go past a car.
Yep.
And then you're gonna drive by 2 hours later, yeah, and it's gonna go
We don't want that.
because it's not paid.
So you have to have 3
You
zones.
have to
then.
have a separate zone.
You make
for
it a
the-
zone still.
Yeah, you'd have to have.
Gotcha.
Similar to what we did for the holiday parking downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Was
Okay.
the 3-hour zone
Yep.
where it would drive around and it would digitally chalk.
But for somebody,
3
but for
hours
somebody
later.
using the app, there'd be 2 zones.
Right.
Yes.
Either
Okay.
the 3-hour zone
User.
or the 1 8-hour lot. That's
Okay.
it.
Yep.
It would be real
That
simple and
makes sense.
clean.
Okay.
So, okay, and
So the
then,
third zone would only be behind the scenes?
yes,
Yes.
completely.
Okay.
Nobody would,
Be on the back office where the patroller unit would
Right.
have to check that.
Yes, so the people parking in those free lots are not, won't even see that.
so then what we're saying is then we leave City Hall alone. 3 hours, it's always been 3 hours, it's always been whatever, just leave it alone. It's 3 hours now, it's working, it's gonna be good. So then we take the beach house, the Williams lot, and that little stretch on First, north of Vine there. And those all become permit parking only or free for up to how many hours? That's the next question. Is it 4? I don't know that 4 is the answer or not. You know, again, I was saying in my thing, 3 hours at least is consistent. You either get paid, you know, you can pay for up to 3, or you can park for free for 3 in these lots. But it's random. 4 hours is fine as long as you sign it, people know. And that's not hard to sign. The entrance of each lot will say 4 hours free or permit parking only.
Why did the committee consider 4 hours rather than 3?
So I think what Nick just said is they assume that if you park
Oh,
at this lot on
that's
the
right. Okay,
outside,
yeah, he did say
gives you
that.
time to wander through, maybe even get something to eat and wander back and you're out.
But, just being devil's advocate here.
You're doing a good job.
I don't have a horse in the race, but I'm the one that has to answer the questions, right?
Right.
So, I guess I do have a horse in the race, but he's a pony. And he's not gonna win the race. Did the study talk about the vast majority of visits to downtown Hudson were an average of 2.5 hours?
Yes. That was basically what it said. It was roughly 2
So,
hours.
do we anticipate that changing?
I wouldn't think so.
So that's
Okay.
just
So-
a comment.
Right.
Right?
So if somebody's at the FIPS, how much time are they going to need?
Typically a 2-hour show.
Okay, so,
If they're doing something otherwise, I don't know. Rehearsals for
Okay.
the actors, that's 8 hours.
Well, and that's where you come into 2 hours might be too short. 4 hours maybe is too long. 3 hours in the middle. But again, when you're talking an hour,
Is it
maybe you
that
just
big
go.
of a deal?
It's not. So maybe you just go with 4 and say, hey, we're throwing 4. I don't know. You know, I don't know that answer. That's what they're recommending.
So
And I
everything,
have no way really to argue against it.
we're switching everything to 3-hour parking, right? Or 8-hour. So now we're going to add another metric in there of 4 free hours of park. It seems confusing to me that we're talking different numbers.
Which is what I kind of said was, if you want to be consistent, you make it 3.
Right.
what about the beach lot? If people are going to use the beach, then,
We're talking, so here's my question to you guys. We're talking about $1.50.
and that's not the issue.
So then why make it free?
Okay.
If the issue is truly the process by which we're doing it, if we're making adjustments to go down to one zone and most of it, doesn't that solve the issue?
So what you're suggesting is that instead of having these lots be free, make them 4-hour lots? Or
I'm not suggesting anything.
You're not
I was
suggesting
just saying that if we're talking about free parking, and that's a 4-hour window, it just adds another metric in the mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're saying 3-hour parking everywhere. Now we're saying 4 hours free in the lot.
Which is what I said in my thing. I said, if you want to be consistent, make it 3.
We can make it 3. I don't think.
I don't know if it matters. I don't. You know, like I said, because we will sign them really big. 4-hour free
They're
parking.
gonna have to be a lot bigger signs than what we have now.
We will. For the Williams lot, the on-street down there, and then the beach lot. The beach lot, the on-street next to the beach lot, and the Williams lot, we'd have very big signs that say 4-hour free parking or permit parking only. And it's tough to argue when you got a massive sign that says that. We won't make them too massive. I don't want to be ugly.
Okay. And I kind of like having, I like the idea of the beach house and the angle parking north of Vine being free because those are close to the library. And when they've got story hour, they've got a lot of people parking. I once went in to go pick up a book and it was,
So,
everything
to
was-
throw another wrench in it. No?
Oh, no.
Can't?
I was
Oh.
just shaking my head in general. That's all.
Do we do the same thing then with the library lot?
No, I think the
Because we
library
haven't
lot's,
talked about that.
I think the library lot's set up right. If you go in and register
Yes.
your license plate, you're free because then we know at least you're probably using the library because you took the time to walk in and
Walk in there.
if you want to walk in and lie to them and walk out the back door or something, whatever. But for the most part, you're not going to do that. You're going to come in, register, you're using the library, you're good. Anybody else in that lot pays for their 3 hours.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I apologize, I have to go, I have a 6 o'clock meeting across the street. I just have one quick announcement, or if you have any questions. Firefighter Tom Barthman was selected as firefighter of the year for the state of Wisconsin. He'll be recognized at the March 9th meeting. He is, the state conference is March 7th, and they'll recognize him there, so I just kind of want to let everybody know that. And then before I leave, if there's any quick questions, I didn't mean to interrupt the talk, because it is very engaging.
That's great.
Did you need anything else for your building up there?
I have to move John's car anyway before I leave.
Before I get a ticket.
But yeah, the building's coming along. We're hoping to be officing out of there in April still, and then running trucks out of there in June. Tentative August 6th open house. So if all things fall in place.
August 6th?
Yeah, tentative, but.
Yeah.
John, I don't know how much longer we are at, but and I don't want you to jump into your reports because you.
No, I'm having fun, so you guys take your time.
All right. Thanks, Chief.
I'm good. I'll see you tomorrow, Scott.
Are we,
Thanks, Scott.
are we hearing negative about 3 hours only? I mean,
No.
you park in a spot and you park for 3 hours, or you have to move after 3 hours?
I don't think
we're
that's
not
the
hearing
issue.
any
Not
issue
hearing
with
that.
Nope. I think what they presented is trying to address what they've heard.
So there, I guess that is my question again. Are we hearing that the negative feedback over paying for parking?
Yes, I think what they stressed was the negative feedback about paying is that we took away so much free. So this helps to give back some of that free we took away. So we're going to give back a decent amount of free that was taken away. But as they also said, we still have a system in place that is working a heck of a lot better for voluntary compliance as far as meters not being broken and things like that. We have a 100% more efficient enforcement system. So we're still going to address a lot of the problems that we had with our new system, but instead of taking away all that free parking, we're going to give some back on the periphery.
Sarah, something to add to that?
Well, just listening into the committee's conversations and the complaints that came to our committee meeting a couple weeks ago were that as far as classes and other events at the FIPS, Stillwater has a theater with free parking. Why would I come and pay and worry? I can just go to Stillwater. River Falls, free parking. So we have to also look to the neighboring communities, and that's one of the loudest complaints that we had was people, saying, well, why? I'm just not going to come to Hudson anymore. It's too much of a hassle. So we created a lot of ill will right out the gate with this system and not having free parking. We had a lot of complaints from people who have a 1-hour class at the FIPS and they're needing an hour and 15 minutes or something so they can get to and from their car, getting tickets right at, a minute or hour 7 minutes or something like that. So I just think that it's that offering a few free spots in these locations is the reason. I know it's only $1.50, but it's not just $1.50. It's
How to get a ticket at 7. So,
it's a lot of ill will was created really quickly, and that's what we need to rectify. So the 4 hours gives you enough time to both shop and eat. The 3.5 or 2.5 hours, that might be you're just having a meal, but shop, eat, and walk around. So.
you're saying 3 wouldn't work?
I think that 3 would work, but I'd like to see the 4 personally, because I think that it creates a little bit better feeling amongst the people who didn't want to come to Hudson anymore.
Well, what do you
I don't think it's going to change how long people stay. So 4 is more generous. If they're gonna wrap up their meal and their business in 2.5 hours, they're still going to leave.
Right, they'll turn over and get out of there.
It's going to turn over.
What do you say about the confusion of a different?
I think signage can solve it. I think if, you're a driver, you have a car, and you can see a sign. I think signage is going to solve the confusion problem, personally.
I think so too.
I'm fine with that.
Thanks for listening.
So if we were to go free parking in say, the beach lot, right? You got the first 3 hours free. Can I keep my car there and pay for another 2
There
hours?
will be no pay option at all. So
No
under
pay
what
option
what we're
at all.
talking about, the Williams lot,
That's right.
the beach lot, and then that little on-street on First, north of the beach lot there, it's going to be signed either free, whatever hour you pick, 4-hour parking right now. So let's just keep using the same thing that's being recommended until we decide otherwise. It's either it's going to say free 4-hour parking or permanent parking only. After 4 hours, you got to get out of there.
Which, to be fair, the east side of First Street there, north of our driveway for the basement, is free parking.
Well, and then if somebody is, okay, if somebody's using the beach and they max out their 4 hours of free parking in the beach lot, then they can go to on-street parking and pay for that. So they can leave their family there, move their car.
Or
and
go
get
to the
back-
Phipps lot.
And get back to the beach.
Or go to the
Yep,
lot
or
right
go to the
across the
lot,
street,
yep.
or go even up to,
Or go further
a
up and
block.
park on
Right.
free
And get it
parking
free.
up there, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think that,
Because we're not going to have pay stations. So no, you're not going to have an option to pay there at all.
All those pay stations will come out.
They'll all come out, we'll relocate them to other spots downtown to shorten that walk for people downtown to pay stations. So yeah, we'll strictly enforce those lots with a license plate reader. That's all we'll do.
you,
You got a thought?
no,
No?
I think I've got everything else.
Clear as
No,
mud?
no thoughts. Empty the brain. All right, so we need a motion for this.
Well, I would wait let's get through the last three quick.
Okay.
So I think we're all on the same page, right? But 4 hours, we're sticking with that. That's the only thing I think we've been thinking about.
Well, you know where I am, kind of, right? I'm not in favor of changing anything right now with that, concerning that. I would say, my opinion would be, is if we do end up changing that we stay consistent and go with 3, so that it's the same across. I'm just throwing that out there for discussion, I don't know.
Okay. So we'll go to 5. That's the same question, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not a big deal, because that's what we would do. So we would take the beach house, the Williams lot, and then whatever one's on street, on First there, we would move those. I don't know how many there are necessarily, but we'd move those to other places downtown. That's not a problem.
Okay.
3 of them, so we'd move those 3 somewhere else.
And 6 is the 3-hour parking zones to have one zone.
Yep, that's basically, we talked about it. We'll actually technically have 2 that people would use at their app, and then 3, but 1 behind the scenes only. So basically you have 3, your app, you could pick one zone that's 3 hours, and that's pretty much everywhere. And then you'd have the one zone that's strictly the Wells Fargo lot. So it would be pretty tough unless you parked in that Wells Fargo lot regularly, you wouldn't have a problem, because it would just pop up in your app and you just go.
Okay.
So,
7 is the parking fine, the first free violation, and then second up to 15 from 7.
I would prefer to wait with changing the fees for the violations until we have more data and we know that the system is steady.
We did have a good conversation about that, and the Nick, who is actually in the parking industry,
Yes,
his
he's-
profession.
yeah.
So, looking to the expert, that $7 is not enough to change behaviors, and the penalty is meant to change behavior. That $7 doesn't really buy you anything, so we've heard of people who are just like, well, I'm just going to get the ticket every day, and that's just I'm going to pay that. And they're just using that as a way to park. Rather, $15, you can actually buy something for $15 and feel like you got value out of that $15. So that was where the experts said, kind of a minimum amount that would need to actually instigate behavioral change, that someone's not just going to pay the $7 knowing that they are risking a ticket all day.
and you're hearing that that's happening.
Absolutely, we are hearing that.
I've seen that on Facebook.
And we're not, if we didn't do that, we're not even helping what we're going to try to change. because people just,
Okay.
big deal. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And that was my point with it too. As long as we're hearing that people are abusing it, I would agree, because our goal is not to make any money off of penalties.
Right.
We do not want to make money off tickets. We want people to just follow our system. But if they're going to take advantage of the system because our penalty is too low, then I would agree that you have to do something to make it so people follow the system voluntarily.
And we did talk about a higher, but this is what
We-
we came up with.
I'd like to point out, we did also go to River Falls and the neighboring communities just to see what their penalties were, and 15 is a little bit lower than their averages.
They're 25, they're 20.
At 20, 25.
So we're still low, okay?
Like I said, I think as long as we're stressing that we would rather make zero profit
Yeah.
off of tickets. Our goal with the ticket is just that if you get it, you don't do it again. We want to educate up front so they don't get the tickets. But if somebody does get one, they're not just going to say, oh, for $7, which is what's happening, I'll just keep doing this. So I would agree with that then. As long as we're seeing that non-compliance happen, our goal with the ticket is to force compliance. That's all it is. So I'm fine with that, yeah. At least staff-wise.
Okay. Because I remember 5 years ago when I heard the talk on smart meters, and they said that, initially you're going to have a lot of tickets, and then that will go down. I guess I would feel more comfortable waiting until the tickets have leveled off a little bit before we increase the fine.
There's nothing to level off, we're giving warning tickets.
Okay, oh, that's right, okay. Yeah, all right.
It's true.
I can buy into that then. What about you, Bill? What do you think on that one?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The $15 fine, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think we could even go 25, but I think 15 would be a good incremental
Okay.
jump.
The first violation is a warning too.
Right.
Right.
Yes,
Even after.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
fix
okay.
all the quirks, right, and then we start this,
yeah, okay.
First violations.
And again, we want people to pay for parking, not
Yeah.
make money off
It's
of.
the education,
Okay.
it's the education base.
education, yeah.
But you also have to have that.
Yeah, if you don't have the stick, nobody's going to do anything. You got to have that penalty.
Have the software issues been solved and the other problems? that-
75% of them have been
Okay.
taken care of.
All right, so then that should
We're
reduce,
still working on the permit thing.
tickets
Nobody can
and-
figure that out.
okay.
This'll help
Okay, so
with that.
formulating a motion.
Yeah, all right. I'll try and do this motion. So, I make the motion that we develop the consistency between the online parking information and the printed materials, and that we update and enhance the brochure with clear communication about how the new system works. I add to the motion that we have that we direct staff to determine where we should have those 15-minute spots, but with the goal of having one per block where there are enough businesses to warrant that. That we take up number 4 for the beach house lot, the Williams lot, and the angle parking spots north of Vine Street, and leave the other ones alone, except for the harbor lot, we changed to a 3-hour lot. Okay, we can redeploy those pay stations as needed. I will add to the motion that we have 2 zones that are that the public is aware of, and a 3rd zone that is behind the scenes, and that we increase the fee for the second violation to $15 and have the first violation free.
Okay. I will second. Clear as mud. Get all that, Melanie?
I can help you with it too,
It's all
Let
being
me know.
recorded.
Questions?
Yes, discussion?
We haven't had enough yet.
I'm sorry. So, back to Sarah's point, once we make this decision on those free parking lots, it's difficult or impossible to go back.
I agree to disagree, but go ahead.
Okay.
I think the argument with is when this goes to council too, the conversation is that we may have, everyone needs to know, we may have to go back. when we review this in 6 months and a year, if the financials aren't where they need to be, we're gonna have to look at how do we bring those financials up. One option is bring these back. Another option is you raise fees.
Raise
Another
fees,
option is
right.
you do something else. But as long as I think as everybody's fully aware that this may have to change based on data after 6 months or a year, I think, while it'd be difficult to go back, I don't think it would not be a surprise at least.
Okay.
I have a question on the free parking. Was that 3 or 4 hours in your motion?
Oh, good point. Thank you.
4 hours.
Thank you.
Either way, we have a conversation at council.
Yes. And council could change it to 3 hours for the free parking, or say no for the free parking, so. All we're doing is move, so the motion is really to move this to council with those recommendations.
And we really, this is a workable document. Everything's in motion as we roll this and reintroduce it. And yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable now. We've all heard it. But that's the buck stops with us. We have to make the decisions. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. Probably wrong more than.
Well, but I'm glad that we're at least doing this at the Public Safety Committee meeting and hashing this out here, rather than in a full council
Well, that's what
meeting.
committee meetings are for.
I know, and rather than, having it sent directly to council, I'm glad we're doing it this way, rather than.
So I'm just going to say before we vote that I am going to vote no, but it's all dependent on number 4, because I'm not sure that I agree with the amount of hours and that we should be going free at all.
And it should be talked.
Everything else I completely agree with.
Okay, so if we had a separate motion with the, about
if it's
number 4,
necessary.
I don't think it's necessary either, but you.
I
if we
just
had-
wanted to
Because Bill,
clarify.
I'm sure Bill will
Just
fully explain that
I
at
know,
council too, so.
Yeah, we're sending this to council, all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So we'll get all the stuff pulled together in nice maps and pretty things for the council meeting, and I'm out of here because I don't need the rest. I've done my part.
We know all this
Don't
is
you want to hear
possible,
the
right?
ambulance numbers?
Yes, we do know all that's possible. Jeff has worked it all behind the scenes, so we know at least it's all possible. So that's-
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. All right, number 6, discussion possible action on,
Wait a minute, we haven't done 3A and B yet,
oh, that's right.
so,
A,
all
discuss an
right.
action, request 15-minute parking on 407 Second Street. I think that needs to wait until,
Hold, that
Yeah.
might rectify itself.
yeah.
Yes,
I don't know.
or do we want to make a recommendation that, okay, so,
Well, if we go with the recommendation, we're talking about 15 minutes, we just gave them 15-minute in front, provided it comes back to that.
well, no, we've got,
No,
we've got
we've
one on
already
that,
got on the
on the
face.
face of, we've got one on the face of that block already.
You know,
It's at the
At
other end by
corner,
Dragon
It's
Pearl.
only one, but it's on the corner.
Yeah,
I'm going back to something that you had said in our previous conversation. That angled spot is not on level ground,
Correct.
right? And so if you're looking at winter time to get out of that vehicle to go up to that sidewalk, there is no walk there. I don't know.
all right,
Yeah, that's a fair
yeah,
point.
I'm glad you brought that up.
That's a fair point.
I think that, all right, if we have a 15-minute spot, we want people to be able to get in and out of there quickly. So having it on the corner on Second Street,
Right.
the southernmost spot, would facilitate that. And so I will make the motion that we adopt that spot for Subhouse as a 15-minute spot.
Second.
Because some of these street faces may need more than one 15-minute spot. And this is one place where it's justified.
That's a little bit of a longer block too.
It's a
right?
longer block, it's a,
More storefronts.
yep, lots of storefronts.
You have my second, right?
Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed?
Honestly.
Okay. then-
Discussion possible, I got it.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm in a hurry. I want to get out of here.
Discussion possible action on no parking in the alley behind Postmark Grill. I talked with Russ, he only needs it one time in the morning on that Tuesday, I believe.
Unless it's a holiday and then it goes to a Wednesday.
Yep.
But they're always picked up by 10 a.m.,
Yeah.
which is when enforcement
Okay,
starts.
so it would be Tuesdays until 10 a.m. that would be no parking in those spots. But then, okay, so then if there's a holiday, how would we, how would we mark it so that
He
people
can
aren't?
cone it like he's been.
Oh, okay,
What's the?
But the problem is that people have been moving the cones and parking there anyway.
Here-
That's why we're here.
I remember us debating whether we were going to do Monday through Friday or include the weekends. Am I missing?
We don't need it on the weekends.
no,
Correct. So I'm wondering, do we just mark it Monday through Friday until 10 a.m.?
no,
Or
because
are
it's
there
only
others?
Tuesdays and then Wednesdays
that.
after a holiday.
I get that.
Yeah,
Well, just put the sign, no parking Tuesday or holidays.
or.
Or the day after
or
holidays.
Or Wednesday, Wednesday after a holiday.
Wednesday, yeah,
Yeah, Wednesday after a
Who's
holiday.
using the spots?
customers.
Customers, got it.
Well,
They don't open
everybody's
until
looking for
11,
food.
right?
Huh?
They don't open until 11.
Correct.
So what customers?
Overnighters or apartments.
Yeah, could be anybody. All right, I'll make the motion to, put a sign up there for no parking until 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and Wednesdays after a holiday, a Monday holiday. I don't know.
That's not confusing
I
at
will
all.
direct staff to, I will make the motion to direct staff to draw that up
We
for
can
a
have a
nice
little
sign.
asterisk on the sign,
A big,
fine print.
We may have to have a big sign.
big marker with, just write in which days the holiday falls on. Is there a second? No? You don't like that idea?
So what do we, say the motion, could you repeat the
Okay.
motion?
All right, so I make the motion to have no parking on Tuesdays until 10 a.m. in those spots. And it's 3 spots, correct? Is it 3 spots then?
I don't have it up. Let's see.
I believe there are 3 spots.
3
there.
spots, okay.
Yeah.
And then,
That's a bad picture.
Oh, okay.
It's actually back in here
Oh, got it.
that he's talking about because the dumpster sits here.
I
We
see.
just do no parking Tuesdays and
Okay.
Wednesdays.
and then on the,
Then we're covered.
and then no parking on Wednesdays after a holiday. So then, so what I said was, we need to direct staff to figure out how to sign that so that they know. And it could be, no parking on days where the cones are there.
Can we just say no parking Tuesdays and Wednesdays?
Let's just do that.
Should we just do it?
Yeah.
Okay, because we're not gonna be taking up spaces on Wednesdays that are gonna be needed.
No, we're there.
There's not that much parking there, that's not a problem?
I don't.
Okay, Tuesdays and Wednesdays until 10 a.m.
Thanks, Sarah.
I will change my motion. No parking, bye Sarah, no parking on Tuesdays and Wednesdays until 10 o'clock for those 3 spots.
Does that
Do
have
we
to go to
say
Public
from
Works?
to? Do we have to say 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. or
Yeah, oh,
like when is the
Yeah.
start time?
Jeff? Because if somebody wanted to park overnight there, they'd have to move by what time?
Yeah, I would say 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Okay, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Second.
Oh, phew.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, discussion possible action to conduct a private family party on Saturday, May 16th, 2020, 3 to 10 in Lakefront Park. I'd ask that this come back. Jeff, you want to explain a little bit of this?
Sure, it's basically a family reunion slash friends picnic slash party that they want to rent the park for. Catered in food, bringing in their own beverages to drink.
Which is legal in that park.
Which is legal in that part of the park. Right? It fits
That
within the
part,
ordinance in that specific portion of the park, which is
Yes.
by the band shell area.
Okay.
They'd like to have a band that comes in and performs live entertainment. But everything supposedly secluded to that part of the park for the purpose of the family reunion slash friends gathering.
This is, I thought it was fairly a new request, but I guess this committee has not seen these, that they often come and they are allowed to do this. My concern is we can't be blocking off public parks for private parties, because it's everybody's park, and we need to continue that.
I'm confused though, so
I pay taxes for that park.
oh, I get
I
it.
should be allowed to be down there, regardless if somebody's having a private party down there.
Got it. So does that go for all parks, or are you just talking
It's
about
all
the one park?
It's all parks, but that's the way it works. I mean, even when we rent White Camp Park for our PD picnic, if other people are there playing, they're there
Have to
playing,
come.
right?
You're renting the
We're renting the building
pavilion.
essentially.
Yes.
Building.
So here, they're renting the band shell. They are not renting,
I don't even know if they want the band. Yeah, because they're supposed to be bringing you Homison or,
yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the
Oh,
band.
Yam House.
Yeah.
Yam House, yeah.
and that's gonna draw probably
That's
a
gonna
lot of people.
draw people, yeah.
Probably going to draw people that are not affiliated with their party.
So I have a very strong concern about that particular issue, and
So do you have an issue
who's
with them?
gonna police the alcohol,
Yes, that's gonna be a problem.
that kind of thing. It's in, what is it, May? Yeah, in May. I have some concerns. I'm not trying to be a party pooper, but
I'm kind of struggling, like, so
every park.
work with me here, right? So we're renting out White Camp for a family reunion, right? And so we're doing the big shelter, nothing else. Is this more of an issue with just Lakefront Park that it doesn't have like this shelter? Should we even be opening that up to renting out to private parties?
That's
I mean, is that the issue?
somewhat, but yeah, but you can't close it off to the citizens of Hudson.
How is
They
this
paid for
event different than the high school class reunion event? It's the same location we're talking about.
It's the same thing. We don't close it off.
Right. But how is this event different than that one?
I don't know if there's alcohol there or not. I don't know.
Well, but that party will be mostly adults rather than a family gathering.
Right. Well, we don't know.
No, I mean, the high school reunion.
You know, we make our other events, put up fences and have security and check IDs and all that, liability-wise.
Not different than any other park, though.
I don't know what you're trying to get at. I don't understand what you mean.
Well, what if someone rents White Camp Park or Prospect Park for a graduation party? How is that different than this event at Lakefront Park? Is it just the fact
I
that
think
there's
it's-
no park?
I think it's the location, personally. I mean, what I'm hearing from you, what I'm wondering, no?
Well, they're not renting a pavilion
Correct.
in Lakefront Park.
Renting
Correct.
the whole park,
Which is what I'm making the point of, this is an indicative of Lakefront Park.
yeah, 'cause
It's
there's
it's
nothing
right in
to
front of the
rent.
river, there's nothing to, I'm wondering if we should direct Parks, or, Parks Committee to review the rental of Lakefront Park specifically. I guess that would
That's
be a
probably a good
motion.
idea. And they've got a meeting coming up next week, so now would be good timing.
Okay.
All right, I'll second the motion.
And more specific to that motion is for private events, not,
Special permitted through the city.
yeah, how do we say that, though? Because halos and all this
Special
kind of,
events, well,
those are special events, right? Private
Only a
parties.
special event if it exceeds a certain number of anticipated guests.
Yeah.
Or they're selling food and drink or, a variety of other things, you'll require a special event permit. Whereas these, where they are guessing 300 or 400 people, you don't necessarily, and it's all catered in food and they're not selling anything, therefore they don't need to be inspected, right?
Right.
That's where the issue comes up,
Right.
is not needing a permit. And then you don't have to show insurance and liability and all that stuff.
Because like the Halos event or any events like that, anybody could go down there and participate in that. And
Anybody could go down
But
there.
they're clearly saying that this is a private family party.
Right, right.
And I don't recall ever seeing that, and I guess it's been going for years. But
Yeah, the church, different church
Was
groups
that
do it.
specific enough, what I,
Yes,
okay.
I'm sorry, okay, go back to that. What's the motion?
to have parks review rental of Lakefront Park for private parties.
Okay, so that doesn't address this issue. So, did you get a second? You seconded
Yeah.
it? Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so what about this issue?
Oh, right, the
Is we- are
specific
we-
one.
Yeah, are we postponing this till after we hear from?
Okay, so, yeah, I think that the real question here is, all right, do we allow families to pitch tents in Lakefront Park? All right, so you and your family go down to Lakefront Park and you want to have a picnic. Are you allowed to pitch a tent to cover your family?
I believe so. I
There
don't
aren't
know.
any regulations about,
And I don't know, I've never done that.
but I mean, you're putting up a big tent now and taking up a large part of the park, or I mean, the park, or in front of, a large area in front of the band shell.
And I believe that people have done that and had weddings there and
Okay.
all sorts of things. I mean, you saw the calendar from years
Yeah.
past. There are literally hundreds of events that
In
I never
Lakefront at the
even knew
band
about.
shell.
We never even knew about.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's something we want to know about, because it's a lot of events, and then our agendas would get longer.
So they haven't so all these people, they didn't rent the
they pay the
the
park
band
rental
shell.
fee. And
They paid a park rental fee for an event in Lakefront Park, but they didn't use the band shell, they just rented an
some
area of
them
the
do.
park?
Some of them do.
Okay.
So I don't know how,
I would move to table this until after the Parks has the meeting.
okay. I said,
I'll second it.
okay.
Do we send this one to parks? Is that what-
Yeah.
Senate,
We're
but then-
tabling it until we find a determination from Parks.
Yeah,
Is that
take
correct?
it back.
Well, so we'd have to send this to parks for them to see it then, right?
Correct. So part of that first motion,
Okay.
why the motion for them to review it was this, but many other events as well. Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. We'll come back. Informational items? Any? No? John, the executive summary version?
These are just the January numbers for the city EMS responses.
Thanks.
I was in Nashville not too long ago and went to a parking lot, a paid parking lot, and it was $30 an hour,
We stopped talking.
$30 an hour.
right off
We stopped talking
Broadway.
about parking. You want us to keep going, eh?
No. All right, so first of all, I'll go over the numbers here just really quick. You guys can see the numbers. For the month of January in the city of Hudson, we had 100 total calls. Of those 100 calls, 78 of them were lights and siren response, so that's what we base our response time on. 22 of them were requested no lights and sirens by dispatch. Our overall average for the month of January was 5 minutes and 10 seconds. The number of times that an ambulance responded from outside the city in January was 3 times. 2 of those times, the request was for a non-emergent response. And then 1 time was an emergent response, and we had a 5-minute response time. We had 1 mutual aid call in January. River Falls did that call. For our total Hudson service area, including all the community partners, that number is 155. Of that number, for the emergency responses, we had 6-minute response time. And I do have a typo there. It says since September. So that is not true. It's just January numbers. And then for our overall, just for the month, again, just to be transparent with you guys, our total volume for the month of January for Lakeview was 857 calls. On the next page, I apologize, that graph is kind of small, so I'll change that, but I just wanted to give you kind of an ongoing breakdown of the response times month to month, so you can see trends. And I also included the fractile response time in there. That's the blue line. So fractile meaning the 90th percentile, 90% of the time we're on scene within whatever that time is listed there. So in January, that was 7 minutes and 50 seconds, and then our average was 5 minutes and 10 seconds.
And this is the time from getting the call.
This is the time from, so Fractile does not allow me to do the time from our dispatch receiving the call to when we arrive on scene. So the Fractile line is based on the time our dispatch gives it to the ambulance.
Wait a minute, this is for both of these
No,
lines?
just the Fractile,
Just
just
the,
the
the
blue.
blue one, okay. It's from, wait, okay, so it's from when?
Fractile is from the time our dispatch pages our ambulance till the time they're on scene.
So, you mean St. Croix County?
No,
No, your Alina.
Alina dispatch.
Time Alina dispatch.
the red line, I'm able to look at the time Alina receives the call from St. Croix County to the time our ambulance arrives on scene. And I'll continue working on the data to see if I can, change that. But we have seen a dramatic improvement. I think I reported this last month in the time frame between St. Croix County getting the call and our dispatch giving it to us. And again, that's a process change that they've done in their center. But a lot of times, again, because the I am responding goes off before anything, and our crews are moving when that happens. So a lot of times our crews are technically en route when they get the call from our dispatch. Just a couple other quick things here to talk about. Look at my notes here. We have two special event coverages coming up here. One is Hot Air Affair. Their request was, we don't need an ambulance there, but in the past, St. Croix EMS was there. So we said we'll be there. So we'll be there until people clear out. And then, so that's this weekend. And then the Rotary River Dunk on February 15th, they requested us. We'll be there dedicated to that event for the time that they need us, from 10 to 1 or 2, depending on what they need.
Question for you on Hot Air Affair. Is that a dedicated or is that standby?
It'll be dedicated. I mean, we'll keep a truck up there at the event.
Got it.
Last year, we it wasn't our responsibility, but we kind of just made circles around it because it's so close to the hospital. And this year, we'll post there.
Thank you.
And I'll probably be there as well. So our EMS base, tentatively, we're looking at a potential move-in the week of February 17th. And I've been in constant contact with Aaron in regards to that, so he's well aware when we do that. And I let him know that before we move out, we'll make sure he gets the keys and the codes for downstairs. The hiring, last month we talked about hiring. We have 3 open full-time positions right now. We have made offers on all 3 of those positions, and all 3 positions they accepted. And I think we did 2 casual positions as well. And then the advisory committee that we agreed to in the contract, we've also been working on that. So I've been working with Scott St. Martin, Aaron Reeves. I've talked to a couple of the other North Hudson and Town of Hudson, but it looks like Aaron had reached out, or someone from the city, so the last I saw, there are some names added to that. I had recommended to Scott St. Martin, Chief St. Martin, that we meet in April to look at the first quarter, because we talked about quarterly meetings. And he had just told me today in an email that potentially we want to meet sometime in February. So, again, my reasoning was, you guys have seen January's, you've seen the data before January, but you've seen January's data now. And then anyway, so if we waited till April, we could do the full quarter and have, that gives me time to put that together and it would be for the whole service area. So that's where we're at with all of that.
Any questions? Nope. Jeff, any updates? Thank you.
Oh, we've already talked about parking. Do you want me to go through that? No? In the hiring process, we just finished interviewing 30 candidates yesterday. We whittled that down to 13 that we'll push to the Police and Fire Commission on February 22nd. That will interview with them, and we're hoping to be backgrounding people then that next week. Hopefully, we can get people started by the end of March, first part of April.
Good.
2 open positions right now that we should be hiring soon. Guys are busy, as people have been commenting. It's typical, a typical operation for us. So it's crashes. We do about 700 crashes a year. Wintertime is generally a peak season for that, so we need to slow down a little bit. The one thing I do want to talk about, the hot air fair. Friday night is the parade, which shuts down a portion of 2nd Street, so right in the middle of rush hour. So I anticipate traffic delays and some trouble, congestion, I suppose, with vehicles and pedestrian traffic in the downtown area on Friday night. Other than that, just a reminder to everybody that is going to be going up on Saturday to enjoy the hot air fair to arrive early and be patient, and don't just park in the middle of the road, because that will be a problem. And they're expecting, with the weather this weekend, they're expecting higher than normal turnout. So that's all I have.
Any other business for the committee next time?
I guess I do have one thing maybe for Chief Willem's benefit, the coronavirus. So someone from your department did reach out to Bridget and ask about masks and supplies for that. That is something we will help the department with. And I think if we start to get notices from the CDC and State Department of Health, there'll be recommendations for you guys not to respond on certain calls, or to respond and not enter until we know what it is. And that will be, the dispatch centers will be doing the screening if they've had travel in the last 2 weeks, and so they'll flag those calls before we get to them.
Yep, and I've told my staff that if it's a response for flu-like symptoms, to not respond until asked by EMS if they can respond, so that they
Correct.
have that communication with your people
Yep.
on scene before they walk into something they don't
Yep.
know.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.